All right. And we are live. Hello, hello, everybody out there in internet land, wherever you are tuning in from, East Coast, West Coast, North, South, somewhere in the middle. We are so to share this next 45 minutes to an hour with you. Sometimes it gets really juicy and we go a little longer, depends on how the questions are flowing. So my name is Dana Balicki. I am an engagement strategist with Move the Crowd. And we also have the lovely Rha Goddess, founder and CEO of Move the Crowd, with us this evening to guide us through, our monthly theme, right? Every month we gather at the top of the month here, and we host a live webcast where we really dig in on the theme of the month. And the theme this month is Be Brave. So I'm going to turn it over to Rha in a minute here. But just for those of you who are new, right, and who may just be discovering Move the Crowd for the first time, I just want to give you a little tidbit about who we are and what we do and why we do what we do. So Move the Crowd is the nation's first entrepreneurial training company dedicated to helping the next generation stay true, get paid, and do good. And this is not next generation just in terms of age, right? This is about what you're up to. This is about culture shifters and change makers. And that's who we serve. So with an interdisciplinary curriculum that acknowledges, honors, and elevates the whole person, Move the Crowd works with clients to leverage their unique creativity, their strengths, and passion into tangible and profitable results. Keyword. So through our True Paid Good Academy, and this is our year-long intensive where you're paired with your own coach for the whole year, among other exciting aspects. Our entrepreneurs emerge with a vision to really move forward, the knowledge to up their game, and the power to achieve their own unique flavor of success. So at Move the Crowd, we really lead to empower a movement by fostering a community of 1 million conscious entrepreneurs, transforming the culture of capitalism from its current state to one that is accessible, equitable, and sustainable for us all. So that is a bit about who we be and why we're here and who we serve. And so for the next 45 minutes to an hour, we'll be digging in on the theme of the month, which is Be Brave. And you'll be able to, we'll be taking questions. We've had some questions submitted beforehand, and then you're welcome to submit your questions through the Google Plus interface. So if you're watching this on Google Plus, it should be very clear in somewhere on your screen where to submit a question. If you're watching this through our website at movethecrowd.me, there should be a prompt on the screen about being able to click through and submit a question, or you can submit a question on Twitter and just use the tag AskMTC. I'll be sort of scanning it throughout our time together, and we can bring some of those questions in. And so with that, I hand it over to you, Ms. Rha Goddess.
Thank you, Miss Lovely Dana Balicki. Miss About to Be Married Dana Balicki. I'm gonna only blow up your spot a little bit tonight, but we're really gonna give it to you in June. Miss About to Be Bride. Hey everybody, so
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, very good, very good. So thrilled that you can join us tonight. And what I can tell you about tonight's theme, and we're about to dig in a minute, is, boy, the energy of this one, it came in serious. You know, if you all are feeling the call to courage already, we are only, Dana, 7 days in to the month, and the current is strong. And so if you are feeling it, I just want you to know you're right at home. You're right at home. You know, so we are in the year of courage and currency, which is all about taking bold action in honor of what you truly value. And tonight, I really want to dedicate our live chat to those who are really going up against unsurmountable odds, or so it seems, tremendous odds to create magic in the world. And you know where they are, whether they're on the front line of the streets in Baltimore or in Ferguson, or, you know, just wherever those folks are, or you're on the front lines in your community, or you're on the front lines in your corporation or your company, and you're really standing for transformation and evolution and innovation and a new chapter where more people can thrive and prosper. We just want to really dedicate tonight and tonight's conversation to you. And I want to give a super special shout out to my brother, Mickey Willis, ooh, ooh, and the Elevate crew, ooh, ooh, in honor of their upcoming film, which is really what inspired this month's theme of Be Brave. So let's get into it, right? So, you know, tonight's theme, I really want to talk about what does it take to be a courageous citizen in the heart of handling our business. And when I talk about handling our business, I'm really talking about what it is that we're here to do on the planet, what it is that we're being called to bring, to offer, and to contribute. And so the opportunity for tonight is, one, to boldly, unapologetically choose your purpose, in case you have not done that already. Opportunity number two is to embrace the call to courage when it finds you and wherever it finds you. Number three is to develop the capacity to face challenges head on. Number four is to take responsibility for your vision and your results. And then finally, number five, tonight's opportunity is to recognize the role that fear and courage have to play in helping us to achieve our greatness. And so this is where we're going to go tonight in the conversation. So, you know, when it comes to fulfilling our dreams, each of us carries various legacies that either support or hinder our efforts to be successful, from the way that we define success to the way that we actually go about achieving success in our efforts. They're often guided by what we've inherited from our families, from the media, from our friends, from the people that we fear or admire. It is all in there, the culmination of those examples that we are able to reference both consciously and unconsciously when we think of ourselves. Going for your dream is scary. Yes, those of you who are going for your dream, just raise your hand if that's resonating, right? But trying to make a viable business out of it is petrifying. And when you choose to go public and you choose to go big with your purpose, it is inevitable that you are going to confront your fears and your doubts. And so as much as we want to avoid it, like I said, fear has a very special role to play in who we are and ultimately in who we become. And that's what we're really going to talk about tonight. So what I have found in my experience dictates our ability to be successful has nothing to do with whether or not we have fears, because the truth is we all have them. But it rather has to do with our relationship to our fear and ultimately how that dictates our thoughts, our beliefs, and our actions. And so I'm going to share a little bit about my personal Be Brave story, and then I really want to open it up and hear from you. You know, when I decided to start this company, I was tremendously inspired. And you know what happens when you get inspired about something you want to share. And so what was interesting was that as I started to share my idea for this company, what I noticed was actually very strange. There were so many people who wanted to give me cautionary advice. People who were very smart, people who had built successful businesses, people who meant well, but who did not get my vision. They had lots of fears and doubts, and they were not afraid to share those fears and doubts with me, right? They had fears and doubts about my audience. Who was my audience? Could I really find them? They had fears and doubts about whether or not my audience would really pay for our products and services. They had fears and doubts about whether or not the products and services would be compelling enough. And it sort of went on, right? And then they also had fears and doubts about me, right? Because after all, I was an artist and I was an activist, and what the heck could I possibly know about running a business, and and what did I know about, you know, understanding what a financial model was, or how did I know how to read a P&L or understand a balance sheet? And it was really interesting because I was having these interesting interactions with people who were constantly trying to sort of trip me up with business lexicon or, you know, really complex financial equations or conversations. Anybody know what I mean? Raise your hand. You know, so it began to sort of raise these doubts, like, who was I to teach entrepreneurship, and who was I to talk about capitalism, right? And the more opinions I got, the more doubts I had. And a good friend of mine had recommended that in helping to build the business that I go out and raise money. And of course, what happened in that process was that I was only exposing myself to more fears and more doubts and more scrutiny, right? So here I am trying to give 5-year projections on something that I hadn't even had the opportunity to test. I was trying to sell the vision to people who didn't know me. And, you know, and around and around. And I went in terms of sort of entertaining people's concerns. And finally, one morning, I'll never forget, this was in July, I woke up and I really said enough. I said, you know, enough with people's opinions, enough with trying to navigate other people's concerns or issues or questions or confusion. I'm going to do this. And if I fail, fine. But I feel like I can figure it out. I really believe that the burning desire to do this for me is there. And no matter what, I'm going to try, because even if I fail, I don't want to have the regret of not doing this business. And within that conversation, there was something about me being willing to trust myself, me being willing to trust my own ability, and me being willing to trust my ability to learn what I needed to learn and to ultimately figure it out. Any of this resonating with you all? I'm curious. And so I decided, you know what? I'm going for it. And in going for building this business, I knew that this was my calling. I knew that my purpose was in the center of this. And my call to courage really came from being willing to let go of all the smart people's advice and just follow my gut. It was daunting. It was scary. But I was committed. And I'm so thankful that I did. You know, in the hundreds of conversations that we at Move the Crowd have with entrepreneurs every day, as you can imagine, we entertain much of the very same fears and doubts, right? Because either people are getting started, or people are trying to grow their business, or they're trying to figure out how to get their business to be profitable. And, you know, in the list of fears and doubts, I really do believe that we've heard them all. And so I'm going to run them down for you, and you're just going to see what resonates, right? What if I'm not good enough? What if I don't know enough? What if I get out there and no one responds? Or even worse, what if I get really big and then people come after me and they try to attack me, or they want to tear me down? Or what if my husband, wife, boyfriend, friend, fill in the blank, doesn't support me? What if somebody else comes along and does it better? Or what if I give it everything I got, but I'm still not able to make money? And so I want to invite you in this moment to just take a minute and pause. And I want you to write down on a piece of paper, what are your top 3 fears, and how do they sound in terms of those questions that you pose to yourself? What are those top 3 fear-based questions you're asking yourself as you're thinking about your courage and garnering the courage to be able to go for whatever it is you're building, right, with your purpose and your vision and your venture? What are those top 3? Take a minute and write them down now. And get as specific as you can about what the fear is for you. What is it for you? Okay. You know, when we have the conversation about courage and this idea of triumphing over courage, you know, we want to have this Hollywood ending. And I'm with you. I understand how it is. But the truth of the matter is that the outcome is never guaranteed. We can do everything that we're supposed to do, but we may not actually have, quote unquote, the big win. There's always something higher that is operating, that is at play when we go for our vision, when we aim for our purpose, especially when we aim high and we aim big. What is guaranteed is growth. Who we become and what we become capable of because we are willing to go for it is really the gift of being on the court. And our ability to let go of having it all figured out, or let go of the certainty of how it's going to turn out, or being perfect, or looking good, or whatever those things are that can hem us up, is really what makes us available to something far greater than we could have imagined. And when we are willing to let go of the outcome, let go of the certainty, what we have the opportunity to really go for and discover is our greatness and what it is that contributes to our ability to be great. So courage is never about getting your way, but it is about, are we willing to show up, and are we willing to play out, and are we willing to be fully invested no matter what the outcome is, right? Without the guarantees that it's going to turn out. Are we willing to show up in that way again and again and again and again? So this is about the opportunity to be fully invested. This is about the opportunity to dance with the mystery. This is about the opportunity to grow and expand in our ability to face and engage that which is uncertain, that which is uncomfortable, that which is unpleasant. And so in the mandate, or in the invitation to be brave this month, I want you to look at, where are you being invited to face and engage, regardless of whether or not there are guarantees, and who are you being called to become as a result of your willingness to lean in and take responsibility for your vision and for your results, regardless of what your results may be. So let's open it up, Dana, and get some questions moving.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I was doing my little homework and my questions too over here on this side. Just for any of y'all, every moment is a learning opportunity with Move the Crowd. I can promise you that. It's never short, never short of doing the work, right? We all roll our sleeves up every time. So let's see, we got some great questions submitted here. And for those of you who have just joined, you can submit a question through the interface. While you're watching the video, you should see a prompt on the screen that says submit a question. Or if you're watching through Google+, there's a Q&A, should be a bar there where you can submit a question. Or you can give us a question through Twitter using the hashtag AskMTC. AskMTC as in Ask Move the Crowd. So let's see. Here's one from came in from D. How do you get past asking for money for providing a service for people with the gift that you are born with? I'm a healer and intuitive. Right. So I really hear a sense of, like, you know, certainly our theme tonight is be brave, right? And what it is for any of us who are entrepreneurs, when it's like, oh my gosh, okay, I have this amazing purposeful vision and I want to turn it into, I want to actually get paid for it. I don't want it to be my side hustle anymore. And how do I ask people for this? How do I ask for money in exchange for this gift?
Yeah, this is so beautiful. So one of the opportunities and this invitation to be brave is to really take responsibility for your power and to take responsibility for your gifts and your talents and the value that those gifts and talents carry and the impact that they make on people who have the opportunity to engage and partake in your gifts. And there's this mythology that we're all working to heal, right? Which is that you can't be spiritual and profitable, right? Or you can't be of service and make money, because somehow you're receiving something in exchange for your service minimizes or diminishes or taints or muddies the impact or the value or the purity of what it is that you have to offer. And so we all have work to do, right? Because we know that that's in the mythology of our culture, but it is not the truth, right? The truth is that in order for us to be in balance and in order for the universe to be in balance, the law of reciprocity must be operating. And so I want you to consider that our work is about being in the exchange, in the giving and in the receiving. so that as we are sharing our gifts and as we are sharing our talents, we have the opportunity to be rewarded and lovingly compensated as part of completing the exchange. And the exchange is not transactional, which is another place that we're moving to, right? In this new paradigm of business, it is relationship. It is relational, right? If we bring honor and we bring integrity to how we serve and we bring excellence to how we serve, then that becomes the foundation of what people feel, and they actually want to reward us. They want to compensate us. They want to give to us, right? Because they acknowledge the way that they've been impacted and the benefit of our service. So part of it is about seeing and recognizing the value of what you have to offer, and also seeing and recognizing that you are worthy to receive. You are worthy to receive for sharing your gifts, right? You are giving, you are worthy to receive, right? And that symbiotic exchange must be in place in order for prosperity and wealth and true appreciation, quite frankly, to be present. So my note to you is practice, practice, practice.
I love that, Rha. I'm sorry. You know how I get here when we do this. I'm tweeting the whole time too, but taking responsibility for your power, right? I'll never forget when we had a conversation years ago, and I'll just sort of paraphrase it, but I remember exactly where I was. I was walking down a street in Brooklyn, and you were talking about how to reframe that conversation around ego and feeling like, that I was feeling torn and tension around very similarly the way Dee was here, where it's like, okay, I have these gifts and I have this work I want to do in the world, and yet it feels very ego driven to ask for money around it. And you said something akin to, this is acknowledging and acknowledging that gift is acknowledging spirit moving through you, acknowledging your purpose here. And so, sort of who are you to not acknowledge that, right? That this isn't about ego, right? This is about your purpose.
Absolutely. And it's a contribution for that person to honor you in a monetary way for doing good. I mean, that's the other thing we want to see, you all. We'll give money to some of the most obscene things in the world. But when it comes to, can I go there just for a minute, Dana? But when it comes to bringing more light and more love, somehow, why is it that we feel, and I know why, because we've been conditioned, this is part of the wounding. We've been conditioned to believe that we're not worthy to accept for the things that bring light and bring joy, but we will pay for the things that bring disease and destruction and violence. And so, I just want you to pay attention, Dee, right, to that framing, and to consider that we absolutely want to energetically move money towards that which is healing and transforming and uplifting and elevating our world, so that our planet can prosper and can be in a vision of harmony and love and joy and peace. That's what we want to be affirming with our money, not the other stuff.
Yeah. This next question comes right on the heels of this, and comes in from C, and is, how do you balance activism with business? For example, do you refrain from commenting on social media about Baltimore if your business has nothing to do with Baltimore? How far do you really go with whole self? Or to reverse this, can you be your whole self and not worry about this, as you may attract the people you really want to do business with?
Yeah, this is a really, really great question. So I think the question you want to first ask is, what is your intention with your social media? And I do think that it is important, because sometimes we have an intention within the context of our business to represent a particular way, and then we have an intention in our personal life, right? And so the first question I'm going to ask you is, how reconciled and integrated are you with your business and your personal expression, right? In other words, are you fully integrated? Are you being authentic in your business? Because this is really the question that it raises. And then when you think about the client you want to engage, and you think about who you want to touch, are you interested in people who want a better world? And what are the concerns that come up for you if you show up as someone who wants a better world, right? Now, I will say to you, and this is right in all transparency, that there are many ways to enter into the conversation about what is happening in our world. And so what's really important is to be grounded in what feels in alignment and in integrity with you. And this is a deep question, Dana, because even for those of us who are activists, we don't always agree with every activist strategy, right, that is happening out there. And, you know, and we don't really, you know what I'm saying? And this is a place where we don't really talk about this, right? But we may not agree necessarily with every strategy that people undergo, even if we agree with the issue at hand or we agree with the aim, right? And so when we're talking about being in our full integrity, it's also about what are those things that we express that we feel fully aligned with and are willing to represent. And are we willing to represent? This takes me back to our stand-up theme. Are we willing to represent them in a way that actually feels honoring and engaging? And so part of what you want to be exploring in the context of how you may want to express this within the context of your business, and particularly the channels that you're using to conduct business, is really to look at how does this represent itself in alignment with who you are and the values that you're expressing through your business, and what's the context that you're creating that really invites people into understanding why whatever it is that you want to say about Baltimore is important, right? So you're always having to contextualize it. And you're always having to check in about what feels in alignment and integrity. And I say that because I think sometimes we can feel pressure on either side, pressure to conform in the context of business and corporate business and who we think we need to be to have people like us. And we can also sometimes feel like we need to conform on the activist side as well. So how do you reconcile and find the truth of what it is that you want to express? And what I would say to you is that if it feels in alignment with your vision and your values that the business is carrying, whatever the business is, field of endeavor is, or industry of endeavor is, then I invite you to find that truth and speak from that truth. Hope that was helpful. I love that question. Love that question.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that was helpful for me, right? Because as we do venture into the world of entrepreneurialism, I mean, it's the same way that, you know, even in our last question, that we've received all sorts of programming and wounds around like what is worthy of paying money for, right? Where it's same way we've received tons of programming around like what it means to be like a conscious, active person, you know, in society, and to have actual opinions, and then what that means in being in business, right? Like somehow they're not integrated. And that's one thing I really appreciate about this work that we do. I'm also an alumni of Move the Crowd, is finding that integration, right? That this is, and that's that idea of bringing your whole self to the party, right?
Absolutely.
You can't be in a million different pieces because there's no way to be aligned with your values if you've got a bucket of them over here and then a basket of them over here and a bowl of them over here, right? And you're just trying to like be like an octopus and pick and, you know, put on different hats all the time, right?
The other thing I want to say is that if there is fear in the foundation of your business, y'all, right? Because we're in the conversation of fears and doubts. I want you, this is the person who asked the business question, I want you to look at what is it that you're afraid that your clients will find out about you? And what's in the way of your expression there? So whether it's Baltimore or it's something else, right? Because we just happen to be on the topic of Baltimore. But what is it that we're afraid that people will find out about us, right? And in what way will that hinder our ability to be in the truth of who we are, or limit or get in the way of our ability to be in the truth of who we are?
Great. That's really, that's really helpful. So speaking of integration, right, and bravery, this next question comes from Elle. Is there a process that you go through to help narrow down your passions and choose one path to focus on? I'm very torn and it feels utterly debilitating.
So when I find that people are struggling with which one do I choose, I'm so passionate about all these things, I find that the thing that they really, 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 really want is there, but often there's a belief that they can't have it. For some reason, it won't be viable, or for some reason, there's so much fear around it, they're not willing to put it front and center. So there's all these other things that they then start to turn to. So always in the background, there's this sort of ideas operating. Is it possible? Is it feasible? Is it doable? One of the questions I ask, and I'm going to really big up Marisol. I don't know if she's out there, but Marisol's a member of our team. We love her dearly. One of the questions we ask is, if you had 6 months and unlimited resources, what would you be doing? So Elle, if money wasn't a concern, and acceptance wasn't a concern, and fear was not present, what would you be doing? And just look for yourself if you could answer that question. The other thing I want to say to you is that you may have many, many passions. Choose one. Choose one. If that other question doesn't resonate for you, choose one. Just be willing to start someplace, right? Don't get caught up in the fear of starting. Choose one and start. Begin. Allow yourself to begin.
I love that. Don't get caught up in the fear of starting, right? Because I remember from work we did, years ago, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it was something like one of the main reasons that like businesses fail or projects fail is that we sort of stop talking about them, right? We stop breathing life into them. And that can sort of happen when you're feeling like, that it's like that failure to start because you're, afraid to like pick something, and there are many doors, a friend of mine says there are many doors to God, right? Whatever that means for, for those of you who hold that belief or not, but the idea of, that starting somewhere is is better than not starting.
But I'm curious about that 6-month question and unlimited resources question as well. What do you see there? If none of those concerns existed, what would you be doing? See if that supports.
Yeah, I'm gonna that one too, and I'm sure everyone else watching this will as well. Let's see, we've got another question that came in here from, let's see, which one do I want to take? Well, this one comes in from Kay. It's a little broad, but I feel like we might be in a good place for this one, especially because I hear a lot of bravery behind it. So what's the best way to transition and make the leap from your usual line of work to becoming an entrepreneur?
I think the first question you want to ask yourself is, as you are considering this opportunity to become entrepreneurial, what is it that you want to do? What is it that you want to offer? And this is an important question because some people are enamored with the idea of being an entrepreneur. Like they have stars in their eyes, kind of like being a celebrity. And I get it. I understand, right? Because there's so much out there now. Like these are the new rock stars, right? Our entrepreneurs. But I think the deeper question and the more important question is, what is it that you feel called to do in the world that you feel that your current company structure or organizational structure may not be supporting? And how do you begin to cultivate a process that supports you in getting really clear about what the calling is, what the offering is, and really beginning there by nurturing and clarifying and identifying and articulating what that desire is and what that commitment is, and then beginning to look at what would it look like or what could it look like if you designed it as a product or a service, right? There's a process we take the entrepreneurs in our academy through called an L3, which stands for how you live, how you love, how you lead. And it is really the foundation for how we begin to think about our vision, our mission, and our purpose. And it's really drawn from that conversation that we then turn towards our core offering, which is like, what is it that we believe is our work to do in the world, right? Or what is it that we believe that we're really amazing at? And what is it that we really want to affect? And there's sort of the intersection of our values, our talents and gifts, and the thing that we want to impact or affect in the world. And the way that those three things come together that begin to give us the essence of what it is that we want to bring and what it is that we want to offer. When you get that clarity, that enables you to then begin to look at, okay, from the essence of what it is that I know I want to do, how might I design? How might I format? How might I structure an offering? And that's really the seed of the business. So I want to say to you, less enamored with the idea of entrepreneur and more focused on what it is that you want to contribute. What is it that you want to offer? What is it that you want to bring? And who do you most want to serve? Who do you most want to serve? I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, it's a great place to start from. And a big one, and sometimes feels a little daunting, right? But one of the juiciest, or I speak from experience, one of the juiciest ongoing conversations that I've ever been in with myself and others. Mm-hmm. Who do I want to serve and what do I want to contribute? And the fabulous thing is that that question is almost never really answered because it evolves over time. Mm-hmm. Mm. So we've got another question here from, let's see, this one's from Jay. Let's see, in the start, in the start of your business, how did you manage the flow of energy to your clients as well as to the behind the scenes of actually growing your business?
It's a great question. So when you are building, you must work in your business and on your business. And I love that question of the balance. It's interesting because my beloved mentor, Susie Carter, who runs Lisa Nichols' company, Motivating the Masses, once said to me that you spend 85% working on your business and 15% of your time working in your business. And I remember when she said that to me and I went, oh my God, like how could you possibly do that? You'd never be able to serve your clients. But the truth is that the systems and the structures and the protocols and the procedures and the mechanisms that you develop in order to serve your clients actually increases your capacity to serve more. And I say that because often when we're starting out our business, this is good because I'm recommending E-Myth by Michael Gerber. Here we go. So please write that book down, y'all. E-Myth by Michael Gerber. When we start out in our business, quote unquote, as Michael says, we are the technician. And the truth is that you spend your time serving the clients. You don't ever really lift off the ground. Why? Because there are so many hours in the day. There are only so many clients you can serve. Now, you do need to have some time, of course, set aside to serve your clients and engage your clients. However, you always have to be holding the vision for how you want to build the systems and the structures that are going to support your capacity to be able to serve more people, right? If you have a vision for growth. Even for my solopreneurs, the ability to have good systems and structures is imperative. So again, whether you buy into Susie's equation of 85% working on your business and 15% working in your business, you want to have a conscious balance of how much time you're serving your client versus how much time you're putting the structures and the mechanisms in place to serve your client better. To serve your client better. And that's really how you want to hold the working on your business. The working on your business enables you to bring greater excellence and greater quality and greater consistency to how you're serving.
Yes, that is the truth. And I know that working with Move the Crowd, like that is absolutely part of the work that we do, and something that I've been so grateful to be a part of and be able to witness is the rigor in which we work on the business in order to serve clients.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so coming out of the nonprofit world, it was a very, it's a very different dynamic in terms of how, obviously businesses, for-profit businesses and nonprofits, but don't let those names confuse you, are different structures,
Mhm.
but it is something that I think that this company in particular, and that the business world
Mhm.
really has to, has a leg up on, in terms of constantly trying to do it better in order to
Yeah.
serve clients.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
integrity isn't something that that I didn't always experience in the nonprofit world. And so it's a very interesting shift to then go from that sort of activist nonprofit place into, being an entrepreneur.
Yeah. And the courage it takes, because we feel like if we're not at the front line all the time doing the work of doing the work of the customer, that we're going to starve. But the truth is, we have to hold the long vision and the short vision, right? By being willing to cultivate and serve both. So I hope that was helpful.
Thank you. So do we have time here I've got 1 to 2 more questions?
Yeah, let's go. Yeah.
All right, so this one came in from Elle. When do I know when it's time to leave my day job? I'm starting to screw up at work because my commitment isn't there anymore. I want to work on my spiritual business. I'll have no income if I leave, and I'm the breadwinner for my family, but can't fully commit to my spiritual business if I stay. Plus, the stress of my day job is breaking me down.
It's a great question. And there are a lot of people, Elle, in this place. So you are asking this question for lots of people. So here's the first thing I'm going to say. You want to develop a transition plan, right? And this is for all of my folks out there who are like, I want to quit my day job tomorrow. Again, we sort of get caught up in the romanticism of starting a business, right? With no money, no savings. So I'm going to encourage you not to do that. I'm going to encourage you to develop a transition plan. And as part of that transition plan, Elle, if your job is really a place where you're really feeling your soul is not being nourished in any way, then you want to look at potentially obtaining what's called a bridge job. Right? And that means this is something that you work that may not be full-time, but it's, and my beloved B. Stanley, I just hear Barbara Stanley's voice, right? But it's not something you work full-time maybe, or if it is something you work full-time, it doesn't require 80 hours a week or 100 hours a week. What it does is it enables you to have stable income while you're building and nurturing your spiritual business, right? It does require discipline. You also, when you're looking at the kind of bridge opportunity you're engaging, you really want to look at what would be the ideal scenario for me. Three days a week at X amount of dollars doing Y work. So it's not something, again, that drains you, and it's not something that sucks up all your time, but you're able to strike the balance between having that job opportunity, which gives you some stable income while you continue to nurture and work on your spiritual business. The challenge that I find with most people where they get to this breaking point is that they allow themselves to stay in a position too long, where they get so fed up or things get so extreme and so bad in the work environment that there's just this desire to kind of be reactive, right? And cut the cord. And so the key is, when you're in a position where you want to transition out, you need to develop the plan. And what is that? Is it a 6-month plan? Is it a 12-month plan? But you're intentional and you're rigorous about doing that work so that you can see every day as you're investing your progress, right? So the first thing I'm going to say to you, Elle, is create the job description. What would the ideal job description be for the bridge job? How much free time would it give you? What would it absolutely need to pay you in order to enable you to sustain? Is there a conversation you may need to have with your partners or other members of the household where there are ways that they can chip in that also frees up your time and energy or brings more resource into the house? So this is a holistic conversation that you need to want to have. You also want to look at the business, the spiritual business. How much time do you think it will take you to get your first product or your first service or your first offering off the ground? so that as you're looking at your transition plan and you're building in your timeline, you're also taking that into account in terms of how long you're working the bridge job, or what the bridge job needs to sustain you for whatever period of time. What kinds of investments will you need to lift the business in the early stages, right? These are all of the important questions you want to be asking and thinking about as you're creating the transition. The other thing I'm going to say, just because it's important in this conversation, there are some of you that are making your job the bad guy out of your frustration or your fear of not starting in your new venture. If you're feeling like that's going on for you, in other words, as I'm saying this, that's resonating for you, you may need to look at transforming your relationship to your job, right? So I'm also going to raise it because if you're not showing up out of a lack of commitment, I want to suggest to you that there's an opportunity to look at that. You don't want to be short-sighted. You want to be long-sighted, because if this is your life's work, the fact that you're beginning to work on this today is a good thing, right? And recognizing that it is not going to build overnight, right? There's work, there's time, there's energy you want to invest in it. And you don't ever want to leave a job for lack of integrity. Y'all hear what I'm saying? So in other words, if you're being paid to do a job, it is an integrity for you to show up fully in that job. And if you can't show up fully in that job, to create a transition plan that not only works for you, but that also works for the company. That is called good karma. You always want to, in any place that you can, and I know sometimes circumstances happen beyond our control, but in any place that you can, you want to be a good steward of whatever opportunity you've been given, because you never know, right? The way the cycles of energies flow, you never know what comes back around in that when we're not clean and we're not in our highest integrity. So your homework is to create the transition plan and to begin to discern what's the timeline for bridging out of this job into the bridge opportunity, and what do you need in terms of being able to ramp up this new business, and how much time, energy, and effort are you willing and able to spend to start to get it off the ground. I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, thanks, Rha. So we've got one last question here. And I haven't seen another one come through yet, so maybe we'll just take this one and be on our way for the evening. So this one's another one of those sort of like broad questions, and this comes in from P, but I have a feeling that P's question is also many other people's question as well. What is the most important thing an aspiring entrepreneur needs to know before going into business?
What are you here to do? I think the first thing is always for me about what's your work in the world? And I say that because I believe that, taking a business requires so much of who we are that it would be crazy not to do anything that you're not passionate about, right? And I've said this before. Bob Proctor has a quote that I love, right? Which is, do not ask if you are worthy of the dream, but ask if the dream is worthy of you, because you are trading your life for it. And I really, really firmly believe that anytime we're looking at starting an opportunity or going after, right, an aspiration, really ask at the heart, what is it that we're here to do? What is it that we want to contribute? How do we see this as an extension and an expression of our purpose? Because if you're passionate about what you believe the business can provide in the world, and you're clear about who it is that you want to serve, that's what's going to be the driver for the building of the business and what the business requires. So I'm going to say to you to start there. It's always about the vision and the mission and the purpose. Because once you have that foundation, then you really can be guided towards what is it you need to know? What is it you need to learn? What skills do you need to develop? What social capital do you need to cultivate? Where are those opportunities to transform the mindset in a way that enables the business to then be cultivated and nurtured and nourished to a place where it starts to grow? So that's what I would say to you is begin with where are you most passionate? What's the contribution that you want to make? What's the thing that you want to affect? And what are the talents and the skills and abilities that you can leverage to make that contribution? And again, who do you most want to serve? Begin there.
And if any, I knew you were going to say that, but it's always good to and what I do want to say, like as we're about to just close out our evening here together, is that for any of you out there who who are sitting in that question of like, what is the most important thing to me? Like, what is my calling? What is my contribution that I want to make, and who do I want to serve? That the community at Move the Crowd, the company that is movement, that is Move the Crowd, is here to help you with that exact question. Like, sure, we do really kick-ass entrepreneurial, biz dev, like helping you create the structures and get clear on your products and your offerings and the whole thing. And where it starts is a really important core space of exactly what Rha just said. What do you want to contribute? And that everything comes from that. It becomes your guide. My work, my experience with Move the Crowd was I got a system of measure through the Live, Love, Lead, right? Through the L3. Then I really became like my ruler. So then I was like, ooh, that opportunity looks good. And that feels a little bit aligned with what I'm up to. It was all about like, oh, right, this is now I've declared what's really important to me, and I can see it. And not only was I able to make better choices, then I was able to attract more of what I wanted because I could actually see it and speak it and call it into being. So it's some powerful mojo, powerful work. And we have just wrapped our Academy registration period for the winter and spring. However, there is still some opportunity to get with one of our amazing coaches for a complimentary, for a free strategic session. And there's a whole process, nothing too lengthy, but a really rich process that you'll go through so that when you enter into the conversation with the coach, you're not explaining where you are, you're not trying to give them the whole rundown. You've already synthesized it and they're right in there with you. Rha, is there anything more you want to say about the Academy and sort of where we are?
It's really about structure. So when we say yes, and tonight we're really talking about bravery and courage. And for those of you who know that really what's going to support you in stepping up to that next level of courage is support and allowing ourselves to be supported, it really is about the structure. So someone else is holding the commitment and the promise with you and holding you accountable to the commitments and the promises you're making to yourselves. And you all know how it works. The promises we make to ourselves versus the promises we make to other people, they look very, very different in terms of how we show up, right? And so there's something about the design of being in the structure. And I think about Elle, the other Elle, who was sort of like, I have all these passions, right? It's like, okay, creating a structure that supports you in being able to get clear and having clarity be an intention, right? And being supported and being able to really tune into what the heart of it is, whether it's the purpose or whether it's the structure or whether it's the model or whether it's the client. These are the opportunities that the Academy affords the entrepreneurs that we work with. I want to take you through the 7-step protocol because I want to give you some homework because you know how it is. But I do want to say that, if you are in a place where you're trying to figure it out, and if you are in a place where support is going to make a difference for you, I want to just reiterate what Dana says and invite you to sign up for a free consult with our amazing, amazing coaches who could support that process. At the very least, you walk away with another level of clarity. And that's our savor to you, whether you choose to lean into a program or not. It's our commitment to help support your clarity, because our feeling is the more that you're clear about what it is that you want to be doing, the more you have access to actually be doing it and being in action around that. So the 7-step protocol that I want to give, Dana, and then we'll close them down for the night, is in the 3 questions that I asked you to name, like what are your top 3 fear-based questions that you're asking yourself? You're going to work with these over the next 30 days. And the 7-step protocol is as follows. Step 1, I want you to identify the fear, and I want you to get as specific as you can about what you believe will happen if you step into your purpose. What are the concerns that you're navigating, right? And do your best to recreate your inner dialogue here to the best of your ability. Step 2 is I want you to describe the feeling. In other words, how does it feel when you are engaging in this inner dialogue? And I want you to notice the specific body sensations. Does your chest tighten? Do your palms get sweaty? Do you get a queasy stomach? What do you see that comes up? And if you can presence those sensations in this exercise, do so. And keep breathing as you are observing your inner dialogue. Keep watching, keep breathing until you feel the tension begin to subside. And just a note to you here, it takes the average emotion about 90 seconds to move through, right? Step number 3, I want you to notice what has been the payoff for keeping the fear in place. And I want you to get specific about that as well. Where have you been letting yourself off the hook? Where have you been playing small? Where are you making someone else the bad guy, right, for what you're not doing? Where are you avoiding owning your full power and your responsibility? I want you to notice that. And again, get really specific about what you're seeing there. Step number 4, examine what is it costing you? What are you tolerating or settling for as a result of not going for it? What opportunities or relationships are you letting pass you by? Just notice. Step number 5, ask yourself, if you weren't afraid, what would you be doing? Again, get as specific as you can about what those actions would be. And then step number 6, on a scale of 1 to 10, how willing are you to face these fears and be in action? Right? So in other words, the actions you described in number 5, how willing are you to face your fears on a scale of 1 to 10 and take those actions? On a scale of 1 to 10, how willing are you to take consistent action in the face of this fear? Right? Just notice. And then finally, step number 7, what is the opportunity available to you in being brave here? What could be the reward for overcoming this particular fear? Being brave is not about being reckless. Being brave is about taking consistent, courageous action in the face of your fears that moves you closer to the vision and the dream that you're aspiring to achieve. So whether that's getting support or whether that's every day taking one tiny step in the direction of what you say is your heart's desire, that all counts, right? That all counts. Running this enterprise has been one of the most rewarding and challenging experiences I could ever have hoped for. And every day I get to face the opportunities and the obstacles and summon courage, right? For better or worse, to make the choices. The opportunity that you all have is to be on the court in a way that is in the highest service of what it is that you're here to value, in the hopes and the opportunity of achieving the highest reward. And I'm saying to you that the highest reward is in who you become. It isn't in the shiny thing, but it is in ultimately who you become and what you become capable of. It takes great courage and great tenacity to honor your vision and to pursue your purpose. It is the reason why we at Move the Crowd are here, is because we believe that people like you deserve to be supported. So in your action this month, we invite you to engage with us in whatever way feels right. If the strategy session calls you, awesome. If there are other ways that you want to be engaging with us on Facebook or Twitter or any of the other channels, we invite you to do that as well. But the bottom line is that the opportunity this month is to be in the 7-step protocol and in the observation of what it looks like to be brave. If we can grow in our capacity to face that which is unpleasant, that which is not easy or comfortable, that which is unknown, that which we cannot control, then we have the potential to access new wisdom, to cultivate resilience, to develop perseverance, and to become strong. And those are the things that make us unstoppable. Your task this month is to be brave. I'm going to leave you with a quote from Maya Angelou. In the flush of love's light, we dare to be brave. And suddenly we see that love costs all we are and will ever be. And yet it is only love which sets us free. This is your girl, Rha. Have a marvelous, marvelous May. Dana, thank you so much for riding shotgun with me tonight.
Yeah, my pleasure. And for all you out there, you can also check in on the recap that we'll post on the blog either this evening or first thing tomorrow morning. All right, y'all. Thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing you next month, and play with us on Twitter and on Facebook. We're here. And all right, be brave. Thank you so much. Good night.
Peace.